Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to another video. And today, welcome to a book haul. Yes, I am doing another book haul, even though I only did one last month. But I have acquired quite a lot of books lately. Whoops, the size of my TBR is somewhat out of control, but hey, it's fine. I am looking forward to all of these books and reading them at some point. And I acquired them in like a few sections. And I ended up acquiring like quite a lot of books at one time because of particular things. So anyway, let me tell you about some of the books I have bought lately. Also, it's very hot at the moment in the UK, which I'm not enjoying, and I can't have the window open when I film because then it's loud, which isn't helping. So I will try and get through this video, but we'll see. I also, my eczema hates heat, and so I feel like I'm very, very blotchy. Anyway, it's fine. Let's talk about books. That's what we're all here for, not to talk about the weather. How very British of me. The first four books I have acquired lately are all Jane Austen related. So I talked about these in my Jane Austen July TBR, so I'm not going to dwell upon them for too long here, but, I did acquire them all recently. So I have 6 Weeks by the Sea by Paula Byrne, which is a new novel coming out in August. This is a proof copy, and this is a book about the life of Jane Austen, or about a particular 6 weeks in the life of Jane Austen when she may have fallen in love at the seaside, so the family lore goes. I've read some non-fiction about Jane Austen by Paula Byrne before, so I'm curious about this, but I will read it during Jane Austen July and see. Then another Jane Austen related book I got recently is this. This is The Elopement by Jill Hornby. This was actually a birthday present, but this came out a bit after my birthday, so it was a late birthday present, but I'm so excited to read this book. This is Jill Hornby's third novel that deals with people from the life of Jane Austen, with Jane Austen sometimes as a side character, though I assume not in this one because I'm pretty sure it's set after Jane Austen's death, though whether or not she might appear in memories, I don't know. So this book is about the stepdaughter of one of Jane Austen's nieces, and her elopement, I guess. And I'm just looking forward to this because I love Jill Hornby a lot. Then the other two books I got relating to Jane Austen, I picked up the other week because I went along to Winchester for the day to go and look at the house where Jane Austen died, which is open to the public this year in honour of Jane Austen's 250th birthday. So I went along with my friend Jessica Bull, who's an author. She writes the Miss Austen Investigates series, which is a really fun murder mystery series about Jane Austen being a sleuth. They're wonderful books, and we went along for the day to Winchester to look round the house where Jane Austen died. I did vlog it, so there will be a video up about that at some point in July, but while I was there I bought two books. So in the gift shop of the museum, the house itself, I bought Love and Marriage in the Age of Jane Austen by Rory Muir, who's a really interesting non-fiction writer. I read his previous book and loved it, so I'm really looking forward to this. I guess it's about what it says on the tin. Looking forward to this a lot. And I also picked up this, which is a collection of 4 of Jane Austen's works of juvenilia. I love Jane Austen's juvenilia a lot. It's very funny. I've read all of these before, but it was just such a pretty edition that I kind of felt I had to buy it. It's very beautiful, lovely to own. So those are all the Austen books I have acquired lately. And then earlier this month, I went along to an influencer event hosted by the publisher Canongate. So I'd been to that influencer event last year. It was really, really fun. I was looking forward to going again this year, and it was also really, really fun. But last year, they gave us all I think they gave us 2 books in a gift bag, and then there were a couple of proofs you could pick up if you were excited. But this year, they gave everyone who came along 10 books, which is possibly too many books to be presented with in one day. I'm pretty sure everyone in the room was slightly anxious about the size of their TBR when they got that gift bag. But it was very generous of Canongate and very exciting. So because there were a lot of books in that bag, and because Canongate published lots of different kinds of things, and a mix of non-fiction and fiction, I am not keeping all of those 10 books. I'm going to give some of them away to the charity shop because there were some, especially on the non-fiction side, that I just thought, these books are not going to be for me. However, there are 5 books that I was given at the Canongate event that I have decided to keep and that I hope to read at some point. Not super high up my TBR list necessarily, because they are books that I, you know, got at an event for free rather than books that I chose, but I am really excited to read some of them. So here I have a proof copy of a book called Shimiso by Brian Chikwava, and this is a novella about a young woman called Shimiso moving from Zimbabwe to Brighton in England. And it was really interesting hearing the author talk about this at the Influence event. It sounded like a really, really interesting book. So I'm excited to read this, and it's very short. So, you know, hopefully I'll get to this at some point. We will see. Then I also have kept this. This is Lily King, Heart the Lover. I was a bit like on the fence about whether or not to keep this book. I think this is probably one that I will keep and will start and try. And if it isn't for me, then I may DNF it and give it to the charity shop. I don't love this cover. This cover isn't screaming to me that this is a book that I will love. However, I think Lily King's previous books have been positioned quite differently, which makes me wonder if maybe she would be an author who I would like. I don't know. So this book, I guess, is about a woman like looking back on her first love when she was at university. It's not very long, and it sounds like it might be interesting. I feel like if I'd read the blurb and not seen the cover, I would be more excited about it. So I'm going to give it a go. I don't know why I dislike this cover so much. And we were also given a Matt Haig book. This is The Impossible Life. I've never actually read any Matt Haig, though he is a very successful, well-known author, and I have been like vaguely interested in lots of his books, but never picked one up. And this is his new one, I guess. And this is about a retired teacher who heads to Ibiza to like have an adventure, I guess. So that kind of sounds quite nice. I don't know if I will get on with Matt Haig, having never read any of his books before, and I feel like this isn't necessarily the one I would choose to start with, but I do have a copy, so I may read it at some point. Maybe I will listen to The Midnight Library on audiobook first, or The Humans. Those are the two that have like interested me the most of his other books, and then if I like them, I will decide whether or not to keep this long term, but we will see. Then I also got a copy of this. This is Life Cycle of a Moth by Ro Irvin. And this is a really interesting sounding novel about a mother and daughter who live in the woods in complete isolation until someone disturbs that isolation. And this just sounded really interesting to me. It sounds like it's going to be quite creepy, quite gothic, very intense. And I really enjoyed the interview with the author for this book at the event. And I just thought it sounded really fascinating. So I guess I will give this a go and see what I think. And then I kept one nonfiction book from the event. So in general, I'm not a massive nonfiction reader. I tend to gravitate much more towards fiction. So I've given away most of the nonfiction books that I was given on the day. But there was one that really interested me and where I really found like the author interview really fascinating. So I'm very keen to read this. And this is Foreign Fruit, A Personal History of the Orange by Katie Go. I just found Katie Go's interview really fascinating, and she seemed like a really interesting person. And this book just sounded really, really interesting. So Katie Go is a journalist, and this book is both like a memoir about growing up mixed race in Ireland and also a history of the orange. And I just think that sounds kind of fascinating, and she seemed like such an interesting person. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think it'll be a really interesting read. Have I read the memoir that I picked up last year after the Canongate event that I was really excited to read because the author interview was so interesting? No, I haven't. And then I have also received in the post another box of stories. So our box of stories are a really fun book subscription company who send a box like full of books, and they sponsored one of my videos last month, and they have kindly sent me another box. This isn't sponsored video, but they've sent me another box, so let's see what's inside it. I'm excited to find out. Ooh, okay, so what do we have? We have The Summer Book Club by Susan Mallory, which looks like a fun rom-com / commercial women's fiction book about a bookshop, which, you know, I'm always excited to read. So it's about 3 women who have a summer book club, and the theme of the book club is that they're not allowed to have any sad books. And then it's going to be about their lives, I guess. So that sounds really fun. I think this will be a good fun read. Then next I got The Weaver and the Witch Queen by Genevieve Gorgachek. So this looks interesting. This looks like historical fiction. Oh, it's Viking historical fiction. Interesting. So about two people who meet as children in Norway in the 10th century and about their lives, I guess. That sounds really interesting. It sounds like it would be quite a magical historical fiction, like historical fiction with a touch of fantasy. So, yeah, very curious about this one. I do really like the bookmarks that come with a box of stories. Ooh, what is this? Here we have Tomorrow's Children by Daniel Polanski, which is a like dystopian adventure novel. It sounds quite interesting. I don't read a ton of dystopian fiction, but I do always find it really interesting when I do, so I'm glad to have that on my shelves as well. Then finally I have one more book in this box, which is Break Up From Hell by Anne Davila Cardinal, which looks very fun. I'm guessing this is a YA, like, romantasy? An apocalyptic rom-com that is darkly comic. That sounds great fun. Although this does not look like a super Katie book, it also looks like a really fun book. And actually, the shoutline is, it was the best of times, it was the end of times, which is weirdly Dickensian, so I'm enjoying that vibe. I feel like this is going to be quite fun and quite silly. As I said last month when I received a box of stories and read This Can Never Not Be Real by Sarah Milano, I don't read YA very much, but whenever I do, I really, really enjoy it, so here we go. I then have 3 other books that I recently acquired to tell you about, and then that is the end of the book haul. So here I have The Magnificent Ambersons by Booth Tarkington. So this is a book that someone very kindly sent me as like a 10 years on BookTube present, which is very nice. And this is a American classic from 1918, which won the Pulitzer Prize when it was first published. I did not know the Pulitzer Prize was that old. And this book is about 3 generations of an American dynasty, and sounds really interesting. And I do always love a classic, and I feel like early 20th century classics are often very, very interesting. So I'm looking forward to this. I think this will be an interesting read. And then I recently went to a book event where 2 authors were in conversation with each other, and I thought their conversation was so interesting that I immediately bought both books. So here we have Baby Teeth by Celia Silvani, which is a novel about a pregnant woman who is increasingly like sucked into online discourse about the best ways to give birth in a way that ends up like taking over her life and becoming really toxic. And I feel like if I had seen the cover of this book, I would have thought this isn't necessarily a very Katie book. It looks too like thriller horror for me. But actually, hearing the author talk about the book, it sounded fascinating and less thrillery than I was anticipating. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think it'll be really, really interesting. And I think some of the book is also made up of like social media and internet forums and that kind of thing. And I quite like it when books play with form in that way. So quite excited for this. And then the other book, which I'm really looking forward to, is this. So this is Homesick by Sylvia Saunders, which is a novel about a woman in her mid-20s living with her boyfriend, and everything is kind of going wrong for them and they're struggling. I think it's going to be one of those books that is both like very serious in many ways but also deeply funny. And the author read an extract from the book at the event and I just found it really, really funny. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be really fun. And I also know that all the chapters are really, really short. There are like 180 something chapters in this, and many of them are like 2 paragraphs or like 3 sentences, which I love. I feel like that's really fun. So there we go. Those are all the books that I have acquired lately. Too many books, considering it's only been a month since my last book haul, but hey, it's fine. I will read all of these books one day, maybe. Do let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them, if there's any you think I should really prioritise. Otherwise, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.